Zocco's Modern Life. Zocco's Modern Life.
And welcome to the Zocco's Modern Life podcast, a very special edition, our annual March Madness podcast. And I'm joined once again, just like last year, I'm joined by Jordan Katz. Jordan, how you doing?
Not too bad, Joe. How are you doing today?
I'm good. Busy week. When they say March Madness, they definitely mean it. This month, man, a lot of stuff going on. So let's jump right in. The bracket has been out. I've done an embarrassingly a low amount of bracket predictions. I'm a terrible American. But let's jump right in. We're going to start with some talk about if they got it, how the selection committee did, and I think there's a lot of criticism about that early on, and then we'll kind of get into some of our favorite first-round matchups and some potential matchups that we like down the road, and then we'll take some picks, do some superlatives, and get on out of here. So, Jordan, I will throw it to you. When the bracket came out Sunday night, how did you think the committee did?
I'll put this delicately, really horribly. Not so much because I felt like there was so many teams that deserve to be in the tournament. This is not. I love when college basketball analysts use the word parity. Parity is their excuse for when there's a down year. This is a year where there is just not a lot of talent in college basketball. There's not a lot of great players. You're looking at the draft, and even assuming Ben Simmons is actually what people think he's going to be, there is still a lot of uncertainties in terms of the rest of the talent, starting with the second overall pick, Brandon Ingram. Is he too slight? And you look at Duke this year, is the number 2 overall pick on a 4 seed, and they're overseeded as a 4. So there's just not a lot of talent in college basketball, which goes to the fact that there weren't a lot of teams that I felt had a great argument to get in. Having said that, when I'm staring at 19 and 13 Syracuse and they're a 10 seed, Doug Gottlieb said it on the CBS show, Syracuse lost to St. John's. Any team that loses to St. John's does not deserve to be in the tournament. Plain and simple. St. John's was a terrible team this year. That is a horrendous loss. And the complaint was over Monmouth not getting in, which, by the way, absolutely should have.
Agreed.
St. Bonaventure, to me, is the team that's getting no love from everybody. I know St. Bonaventure lost to Syracuse, and that was what the committee, I think, probably used as their determining factor. First of all, the game's in Syracuse. Second of all, the game's at the start of the regular season. If you watch any bit of basketball and you think that a loss in Game 2 is worthy of justifying that Syracuse is a better basketball team than St. Bonaventure, you're out of your mind. You're not the same team in Game 2 as you are in Game 30. That's just not the case. St. Bonaventure tied for the A-10 regular season title. That alone should be enough in a quality mid-major conference like the A-10 has the reputation of being to get you in the tournament. You factor in the BPI and the RPI, and this team should have been a lock. Yeah. And instead, they're a 1 seed in the NIT. Valparaiso, if they had won their conference tournament, would have been on 11 seed. And I truly believe that. And instead, they're not only not in the tournament, they're not in the discussion. But Tulsa gets in. I
Tulsa.
Think you look at Michigan, Tulsa, and Syracuse, and I thought Michigan did enough to get themselves in. And, I haven't even gotten to Temple yet, by the way. Temple is another one. Ridiculous. I don't understand how Temple got in. Michigan, I thought, did enough to get themselves in. But Temple, Tulsa, Syracuse, I don't understand how those 3 are tournament teams. I don't get how Wichita State winds up in a play-in game after the year that they had. Sure, they don't win their conference title. But the committee went out and said, as mid-majors, challenge yourselves.
Yep.
Go play a good non-conference. And it won't matter if you don't wind up winning your conference title. If you win the regular season and you challenge yourselves non-conference, and you have the record to boast, you're in. By that definition, Monmouth and St. Bonaventure are in. Tulsa and Syracuse are out. I don't know where is the ability to determine what is what. It's like throwing darts at a dartboard. One year you got to hit, double 20. The next year you got to hit triple 18. I don't. One year it's the BPI. Next year it's the RPI. Next year it's who you play. I don't get it. I just don't get it. My final point is we can go to seeds. You look at the seeds in the tournament. What is UK doing behind Texas A&M? Did they not play a game on Sunday? They played a game on Sunday, and Kentucky won. What is Kentucky doing behind Texas A&M?
Well, same goes. I agree. Yep.
Arizona's a 6, and Duke's a 4.
Yep. They played favorites, and talking about Sunday, UConn played on Sunday, and super pumped about that. They came into the weekend not even in, and it took them a 3/4 court shot by the freshman. He's going to be so good. All right, so that's it. But UConn gets a 9, and so does Cincinnati, who, okay, they beat closely, but still, it's like for UConn, it's very interesting what they're judging. First off, the game 2 conference that didn't matter.
Know? Because I don't.
No, I wish. And I the reason I let you go so long, and welcome Jordan Katz to the podcast. No, but because everything is I couldn't have said it better. They 1 year is this is the criteria, 1 year it's not, and the end result is teams in the non-power conferences get screwed. And on top of that, to mess up the seeding, it's almost like they want there to be quote unquote upsets, right? Like college basketball has taken such a hit, in the sense of it's not good to watch, it's not good television. It's almost like they're trying to create good television when they don't have to. People watch this part of it. This isn't the part you have to fix, guys. It's the regular season when it's, Virginia and another team that can't score, and it's a race to 45. Like, that's the part you have to fix. This isn't, everyone's watching this regardless if there's a quote-unquote upset because Arizona makes it to the Elite Eight as a 6 seed, Like, that's not the part you have to fix.
The other thing that the committee, to me, completely botches is we got 10 guys. Calipari says this all the time, and he's absolutely right. We got 10 guys in a room, 10 athletic directors, don't physically have the basketball wherewithal to dissect everything, to dissect all the numbers, to use their eye test, and to accurately weight both and then pick a field of 68. They don't have the ability to do it, and they show it year after year after year. When are we going to get basketball people in the selection committee? When are we going to get people that can use the eye test accurately as well as look at the numbers, look at who you played, and use both and be able to determine who the best 68 teams are? I'm sorry, you cannot tell me that Monmouth is not one of the best 68 teams this year, or St. Bonaventure is not one of the best 68 teams this year. And you can't tell me that Syracuse or Tulsa is one of the best 75. Yep. I don't understand the choices of the committee in terms of the last 6 spots. I don't get why Wichita State's in that field. I mean, you want to talk about getting screwed. In this mini bracket here in the South, we've got Arizona as a 6, Wichita State as 11, Miami as a 3.
UConn.
Miami got a horrible draw because whoever they get in the second round is going to give them one hell of a game.
Yep. I can tell you. Well, you mean it's unexplainable why these teams got in based on basketball, but. Colin Cowherd, says it all the time, come on. I mean, Syracuse and Duke, Monmouth, it's, unfortunately, there's more behind it, but.
And you know what? I get that. I get the money draws. But
yep.
Come on, you can leave Syracuse out 1 year. You're not going to suffer. It's the NCAA tournament. You said it yourself.
Correct. That's the point, that really, the brand shouldn't matter, because it's not like, whoever Monmouth got in the first round, people were going to watch. It's not, and they hide some of those games anyway. They'll put them at 2:45 on a Thursday. It's not the end of the world about the whole brand and who gets in. But yeah, teams got screwed, and the seeding is all messed up, and that South is no fun. And there's always one. I think this is a very good transition. I will take the credit for that. There's always one region, whether it's teams get misseeded, incorrectly seeded, or teams just don't play up to their standard, especially this year when number one teams, there was a constant change at the top spot in the rankings because teams were constantly losing. Seems there's always one region that turns into a crapshoot, as they say, and I think it's pretty clear that it's the South as the region that can go in many different directions, and it's going to go in one of the directions you don't pick. That's going to be the region that screws everybody up.
I agree with you. I think the South is absolutely loaded, and Kansas got an incredibly tough draw. Maryland got all that they have in the world.
Whoa. You better go in order. So UConn is going to give them a good game.
Okay. Bias aside,
then they have to get past UConn.
Listen, a lot of people like that matchup. They like the fact that UConn can give them trouble defensively. Kevin Ollie, I think, is going on record for maybe the most underrated coach in the country. Kansas has too much talent in that game, in my opinion. We look at games where you can match Kansas's talent. Maryland can match Kansas's talent. They're inconsistent, but they can match it. Cal can match it. Arizona can match starting five. When we go into the bench, Kansas might have the advantage, but Arizona can play. Don't sleep on this team. I know a lot of people like Wichita State because Wichita State's backcourt is one of the best backcourts in the country. Listen, Alonzo Trier is a terrific defending guard. Gabe York can shoot the three. That team can play. Miami's got two senior leaders in the backcourt, particularly Angel Rodriguez, that sort of leads them and makes them go as the point guard, making his second tournament appearance with a different team. Iowa, don't forget Iowa. Iowa was the 4th team in the country once upon a time before they stumbled. And then you got Villanova as the 2 seed. That is a loaded region.
Yeah. That is, yes it is. And, the one, and of course you can pick apart any team, and I think especially this year, it wouldn't surprise shouldn't surprise anybody anymore, but especially this year, it wouldn't surprise anybody if one of the number 1 seeds went down earliest, and especially in the South, only because of the crazy seeding that happened. But the one thing I did hear, and I think we can start there and go around however you want to do it, but Kansas-Connecticut is a very interesting matchup, mainly because, and I read somewhere, and I don't know where, I believe it was a basketball writer, so that, whether right or wrong, that Kansas struggles with guard-dominant, ball-dominant guards, other way around, that use the pick and roll, that are very good at the pick and roll, and that is obviously something that Ollie does and the Huskies do and have done forever. And just to touch on that before, I would love your opinion on that. Kevin Ollie is only underrated in college to a degree. Every summer his name comes up for the pros, and that's how you know that he's not underlooked all over.
Yeah, terrific second point, by the way, because I think Kevin Ollie, Brad Stevens did the unthinkable and jumped, and look at the success that he is having with the Boston Celtics. Kevin Ollie, if he were to ever jump, it would shock everybody. I don't think it would be a bad move. I questioned whether Brad Stevens could work at the next level, so he may, but I don't think Kevin Ollie would be a bad move because of his reputation. Addressing the point about the ball-dominant guards, Kansas's big men do not defend the pick and roll well. I think you said that a little while ago, and you hit the nail on the head. They do not defend the pick and roll well. What Bill Self has a tendency to do come tournament time is he shows you defensive looks that he has not shown all year. He'll slip into a 2-3 zone and mix it in during this little week, and he'll make sure his team can run it just on occasion. He'll make sure his team can run a little mini trap press if they need to break it out. Bill Self is great at adjusting to what is in his region. Now, sometimes that works really well for Kansas. And sometimes Kansas can go really far. And other times, Bill Self can overthink things, and they can get bounced early. So if he overthinks that Connecticut matchup, maybe that's an opportunity.
UConn has, and I'll put this out there right now, I haven't watched as much college basketball as I should, mainly because the pros are just easier on the eyes, and I really like professional basketball. But I have watched a lot of UConn this past weekend, and from what I've heard, so now I'm not just using this past weekend, since the Huskies, and I promise we'll move on, but I live in Connecticut, all right? Jalen Adams, since they've moved him into the starting lineup, he's the kid who hit the shot, but he's actually playing really well. And since they moved him into the starting lineup, meaning they give him the ball, and then they got the likes of Sterling Gibbs and Daniel Hamilton, who has the ball a lot as well, but they can put him on a wing, and Rodney Purvis. Those they go a little small ball action around Brima, around the big man, and they're playing significantly better with that sort of lineup instead of giving Gibbs. They had Gibbs playing point, and he's really not a shooting guard, but he's also, I don't know, he's kind of a tweener, and it really wasn't working with him at the point. And of course, they're best when they get out and run, so that can erase some of the talent differential with Kansas. But my head says Kansas is going to come out of the bracket, and my heart says UConn has a chance. Woohoo! It's March.
Daniel Hamilton is the X factor, of course, and he is the engine that makes that team go. Yeah, he is the engine that makes that team go, and he would have to drop 20 in that performance because, like we've said multiple times now, at the pick and roll, you slide under that pick, he's going to have to hit 18-footers, and he's going to have to hit them all day. And that's I still think that's a tough matchup. I'm not as concerned about that one. I think UConn went on a great run. I think they get a win. I think that's probably it. By the way, to break some news, just because I was on Twitter, apparently the Patriots traded for Martellus Bennett.
Wow, I'm seeing that too.
If you're looking for a fantasy football sleeper before we go back into the bracket for next season, Martellus Bennett.
We are, two things. We are putting Connecticut past Colorado, who's actually a very good team, and that's going to take, UConn can't be looking ahead, but they have shown in the past that they don't. And I'm going to throw this out there, and then I swear we'll move on. It's only been like 17 minutes. Come on. If, heaven forbid, if Kevin Ollie runs this table again, and this is the year where his team is pretty good. They have some pieces that can do it. They'll probably be better next year. And with the top teams always falling, constantly a new top team. Everybody, no clear favorite, even though Kansas is obviously, I think, the best team in the tournament. If Kevin Ollie runs this table again, does he retire? Does UConn just stop playing basketball for a while? That would be 2011, 2014, and 2016, 3 tournaments in 6 years, right? And all 3 times they will have won it when they shouldn't have. I'm curious kind of what he should do. Yeah.
Yeah, he runs the table this year and go to the pros because you've accomplished all you can.
Jeez, oh my God, and it's such good memories. And I had my seat every game, guys. I need my seat. UConn's on. And if they do it again, I don't know what I'll do. I mean, the women have it on the lock, and that's the team I'm following around. So that's good. At least I know who I'll be rooting for the whole way. But by the way, they're really good. And if anyone ever,
yes, they are.
If anybody gives a crap, and so I've seen this team a handful of times, 5, 6, 7 times in person now. I watched them in the conference tournament. I saw them against South Florida twice and Notre Dame once. And just real quick, this is one of UConn's best teams maybe ever because they're so deep. And their starting 5 is so good, and Stewie's so good, and they're really good. A game might not be within 10 points the rest of this tournament. They might win every game.
I was about to ask you if you were to bet right now, would you bet that UConn wins any game by less than 15 points?
Oh, 15's tough because things can happen. And I saw Notre Dame come back at Gamble against them by just shooting straight threes. On the road, in the second half, they were down 20, and they really cut into that lead. Notre Dame...
Gino doesn't let that happen twice, though.
Right. And Notre Dame is the one team, they were hurt when they played them without Brianna Turner. She's a forward. Notre Dame, they can only meet in the final, which is a good thing for UConn. And that's going to be a great final. I'm looking forward to that. But up until then, I would bet a lot of money that there is not a close game. All right, so we got UConn. We got UConn moving on past Kansas, right? All right, moving on. We could. Here's what I want to do. So we're like 20 minutes in. All right, let's do like our favorite matchup from each region, and if we each give one, that's 2 of the first round matchups, and then we'll kind of go through quick and do quicker analysis on kind of every matchup with our picks. All right. So in the South, in the first round, I will start with Arizona-Wichita is going to be a great, great game. I'm really looking forward to that. Besides that, can Maryland lose? So Maryland, Melo Trimble, who's the guy from Duke that they have? The transfer?
Rashid Suleiman.
See, I forgot the name, but he should be playing better than he is there. Like Maryland should have had a better year. They're super talented. Can they get upset in the first round though? We see that 12-5 a lot.
Absolutely they can. Maryland is inconsistent. I don't believe they made it out of the first weekend in 14 years, I think the stat is. I'm going to look at that real quick. Yeah, I think it's been 14 years since they've made it out of the first weekend. And they can definitely drop this one. The Jackrabbits defend on that side of the ball. They defend really well. They hold opponents to 41% shooting. I'm just looking up some numbers. That's why I was sort of lost in train of thought. They can rebound well enough. Maryland's not a great rebounding team, so they can rebound well enough to hang in there. And they almost always win the turnover battle, which is bad news for Maryland because Maryland is turnover prone. The other thing is South Dakota State has a freshman by the name of Mike Dwam, who is one of the mid-major secrets in this tournament. Jameel Warney for Stony Brook is sort of getting a lot of publicity after the big 40-point outburst in the American East Championship game. Mike Dwam is a 6'9" forward who can take you off the dribble, face you up, take you in the post, and he can shoot the ball. Jake Layman is going to have a difficult time guarding him. I know they love Layman's size, and they love when he is a matchup problem for the opposing team because he's quick and he can guard another team's guard and he uses his length. I don't know if he can guard someone his size. So in terms of the 2 matchups that are the most intriguing, because Arizona and Wichita State's the gimme, I thought you hit the second one. I thought you hit the nail on the head. I think Maryland and South Dakota State is probably the next most interesting matchup.
Yep. Any future, if you're looking at your bracket, and we're going to do picks in a second, but any later round matchup in the South that you think would be super interesting besides Kansas and Connecticut?
Everybody is staring at the opportunity to have Villanova, who won the Big East regular season title in a year where the Big East was better than people thought, but it's still the modern-day Big East, against Kansas. And the opportunity for Villanova's 5 seniors to go up against Kansas's talented players. To me, the matchup that nobody's talking about is Cal's 3 phenomenal freshmen going up against Kansas's Big 5. Cal has the talent to be the sweeper of the tournament. They also could wind up being bounced in the first round to Hawaii.
Yeah.
But they have the talent to make a deep run, particularly with Jaylen Brown and Ivan Rabb. I think that is a really interesting matchup in the Sweet 16.
I would go with so this is probably another one that isn't going to happen, and it's not even that crazy. I just like when teams play that don't usually play because they hate each other. For example, Indiana, Kentucky, that meets the qualification. But in the South, Kansas and Wichita in the Elite Eight, I think it's a lot of fun. And
I think that would be a lot of fun.
Did Wichita beat them? They played in a previous tournament kind of recently, didn't they? And didn't Wichita beat Kansas? Or am I doing?
Yeah, you're so right. I forget who won.
I think it was when Kansas was the 2 and Wichita was the 10, and this was kind of like the that might have been the Final Four year or the year after when everybody was like, oh, they're not going to do it again. And I think I'm pretty sure it happened. I'm pretty sure Wichita beat Kansas in another tournament with this crew, with Van Vliet and Baker. And I think that would be a nice send-off for those Shockers.
The other thing that would be incredibly interesting in that matchup before we move on to the next region.
Yeah.
How about UConn-Villanova in a Big East rematch?
No, don't tease me. Oh, my God.
If they pulled it off, which, for the record, because your heart is in it, I don't think UConn holds that game within double digits again.
I know.
If they pulled it off, and if they made a run, what a story that would be to have a Big East rematch. I think that would draw through the roof for an Elite Eight game.
Agreed. And it would be a game UConn would be favored in? No, okay, no, I'm kidding.
No. Let's calm down over there.
Yeah, we'll do the West. We'll stay on the left side of the bracket. In the other region, so now the West, there's a couple things I want to ask you because you're really on top of your stuff today. And I clearly haven't watched enough college basketball.
Well, this is my favorite time of year, man.
I know, and it's my favorite too. And for some reason this year, I don't really. Whether I'm busy and I've been the life has been sucked out of me.
It was hard. Listen, it was hard to watch college basketball this year. They love to use this word parody. I said it earlier. They love to use this word parody. This year was tough to watch. There was bad basketball. There was just not talented play. And
it didn't help that I got League Pass this year, so now I can really watch any NBA game I want.
Yeah.
Boogie is so great. Okay. So in the West, Oregon. I wish they screwed again. So in addition to screwing Kentucky, right, with a seed, can we not put UConn, who is, if you're doing it based on like teams playing well right now, can we not put UConn to face Kansas in the second round? Like, can you give me Virginia? Come on. It's like they didn't even play on Sunday. Like, okay. So I like Oregon. I've heard very good things about Oregon. We'll start there. I'm very interested in your opinion on that team. So now, just to recap, I know this much. The Ducks ran through the Pac-12, which is sneaky good this year, with Arizona and Cal in the Pac-12. And there's one more team, too. Arizona, Oregon. Oh, Oregon State's in the tournament.
Arizona, Oregon, Cal, and Utah are the big four.
Utah. There we go. So then Oregon ripped through the Pac-12 tournament as well. So I'm very interested in your thoughts on them as a number one seed that kind of everybody is already kind of not penciling into the Final Four, and I think they're from what I've heard, they're good enough to make a Final Four run.
Not only are they not penciling them into the Final Four, they're trying to figure out a way for St. Joe's to beat them in the second round.
If it was UConn, I would do it.
I personally, if Oregon was a 2, I wouldn't have thought twice. I would have put them in the Final Four. Now, you can say, well, how can you say if they were 2, you'd have them in the Final Four, but if they're 1, you question it because of the expectation that goes on with the 1. Because you're not under the radar anymore. You're very much on the radar. As a 2 seed, you would have just said, oh, West Coast bias, thrown them out the window and moved on. And most teams are doing that as a 1 seed, so I do kind of like my chances still anyway. This team is a much better basketball team than they are being given credit for, like you said. 4 double-digit scorers. They spread you out. They dribble drive. They penetrate and kick. They move the ball. They've got scorers that can take you from anywhere on the court. I love the way this team plays. They play aggressively. They're not afraid of the moment. And they're just going to play their game. They're going to shoot the ball quick. They're going to play pressure defense. If they get backdoor cut, if they're a little too over-aggressive, they're still going to play their game. I think that this is a very dangerous basketball team. I don't see them getting knocked out. I see them coming out of this region. I don't see them getting knocked out beforehand, mostly because I think this region is really weak, and I think you're going to see some wacky stuff go on. But I don't think that this is the 1 seed that's going down early. That's just my opinion. If we're talking about the most interesting first-round matchup, I'm sticking with the 6-11 team, and you're going to see that come up a lot for me.
Yep.
Texas UNI is the most interesting first-round matchup. Shaka Smart appears to be ready to make another run again, but it's been a while since Shaka's made it past the round of 32. And this team isn't actually particularly healthy. They do get Cameron Ridley back for what's hopefully 15 to 20 minutes. But if they had him back for 25, that would have been a much bigger deal. And UNI plays terrific team basketball under Ben Jacobson. So I think that's a very interesting matchup.
Yeah, I agree. It seems like I think this year and I think last year as well, the 6-11 matchups are like a lot more fun than the 5-12s. 5-12s get a whole bunch more hype and pizzazz and upset alert stuff. But I think I agree. The 6 and 11s, especially this year, I'm kind of looking around. Oh, no, especially this year. Texas, Northern Iowa, Seton Hall, Gonzaga is going to be great. Notre Dame, Michigan, or Tulsa, but Michigan. And then Arizona, Wichita State. Those are, three of the four of those are going to be awesome, awesome games. I'm going to throw it back at you. So we already touched on Oregon. So a team with a 25-point-per-game score has never won the national title. I know that for sure. And I don't even know if they've ever made it to the Final Four, a team with a 25 points per game score, and that would be Buddy Hield in Oklahoma. And I know this team's very good. I'm curious what you think about them kind of coming out of this region.
If we did brackets based off of just picking which team had the most talent, if we did brackets picking based just off of which team had the best player, and that was the way the brackets were decided, Oklahoma would be your national champion. No question.
He is very good.
The problem is, in order to win in the tournament, you have to have a coach. And I think if we grabbed one of our friends and stuck them in Lon Kruger's spot, they could do a better job.
Oh.
I don't understand what everybody sees in Lon Kruger. I think he poorly manages timeouts. I think he is a little too lax in terms of letting his team play through runs. And in the tournament, that costs you because you're dealing with 18, 19, 20, 21, 22-year-old kids. This is not the pros. You don't go through an 8-0 run when you are up by 6, lose the lead by 2, and you can't then lose the lead by 6 and call a timeout then when it's a 12-0 run. That's not that you could get away with that in the pros because they'll be able to score a couple baskets even once going down 2. In college, you can't do that. You've got to be more aggressive with your timeouts during runs in the tournament. What's interesting this year is that you only get 4. So that might become a little more tough to manage. But going back to Lon Kruger, he just does not do a good job of managing his bench, managing minutes, managing timeouts. I don't think he's a good X's and O's guy either. I think what he is he's a great recruiter and he's a great motivator. And there's a role for that. I got to be honest. I think that's pretty much what Roy Williams is.
Yeah.
I don't think Roy's a great X's and O's guy or a great timeout manager. And the timeout part is well documented. The difference between Roy and Lon is that Roy recruits better talent, and Lon actually has to coach his talent.
Right.
So in terms of what Oklahoma can do, I know a lot of people like them in the Final Four. I got to be honest, I don't see them making the Elite Eight.
Me neither. Well, does that get us to A&M? So who do you have coming out of the bottom half? I mean, so listen, A&M's good, and I know that they're senior team led by perimeter play, which is important this time of year, and that can be the difference. Yeah, who do you then? If not Oklahoma, who to face? Whoever in the top half?
There are two games that when we go through our picks, and I'll leave this and then we'll go to the next region for the interesting game. There are 2 games that I'm literally picking on the spot on this podcast.
Ooh.
It is Texas A&M, Texas, and Arizona, Miami, Florida. Whoever I pick to win both those games is going to be Elite Eight. And I'm literally going to pick them on the spot in 15 minutes and submit them to Brian.
Okay. I won't forget that.
So there you go.
All right. Let's go to the East. That's enough. That's a tease and a half right there. Go to the East. All right. So obviously the favored matchup down the road is Kentucky, North Carolina. But as I mentioned, I think, a pretty interesting first-round matchup. Everyone really likes West Virginia. What's your thoughts on them? I think and actually Xavier. My favorite thing today, real quick, and then I'm going to let you go on the little thing, which I love, by the way. Somebody called into Colin Cowherd's show. No, it wasn't a joke. Someone called into Colin Cowherd's show and said, I got Xavier in the Final Four winning it all. I'll put $10,000 on Xavier. I'm like, well, come on. If you're going to bet on him, you got to say their name right. It's not Xavier. So the guy's betting all this money on a team he can't even pronounce. What's your thoughts on Xavier and West Virginia?
I think that could be an interesting matchup. Xavier is senior. Not senior. They're upperclassmen loaded. They are they're just a really good fundamental basketball team. They rebound the ball. They get to the line. They have balanced scoring. They are a good fundamental basketball team. They are a deep basketball team, and they're well coached. Chris Mack is a good coach. I'm not sure that Bob Huggins believes in the modern-day rules of basketball. He doesn't believe in offense. He doesn't believe in fouls. And he just doesn't believe in things that I think you need to advance. Yet somehow Bob Huggins winds up with a 3 seed with this West Virginia stuff because they force enough turnovers, and then they can do enough offensively to win. So I think that's a very interesting potential matchup. My first-round matchup that I think is most interesting is actually the 8-9 game, USC and Providence. Providence is getting a lot of buzz because they can sort of avenge recent defeats and make a run at UNC, right? You got Chris Dunn in the backcourt. You got Ben Bentil. Maybe Ben Bentil in the front court. Maybe they can make a run at North Carolina, right? So this is the whole thing. Don't sleep on USC. USC is a tough matchup for UConn because USC can shoot the lights out. They can throw up 40 in a game or a half, but they can shoot the lights out. And if they are hot, if they're hot for the weekend, North Carolina could have their hands full.
Wow. Yeah, I really like USC. I know everybody likes Providence, and I don't see it. I do like USC, but not past Carolina, obviously. And is anyone else really skeptical of North Carolina? Like, are they really supposed to be a 1 seed? Did Michigan State get screwed? I have a lot of questions. This North Carolina team is the same team that, like, I watched for stretches not look like they wanted to play basketball together on the same floor at a certain time. And, I've heard they struggle offensively, and they lose focus for stretches of games. Will that happen in the tournament? Who knows? But is that a thing you want to bet on for,
The one thing I've noticed about this Carolina basketball team, is that this Carolina basketball team is the best team in the paint that I've seen in a very long time. They also defend incredibly well. If they can make enough shots, they probably win the whole thing.
Wow.
The problem they're going to run into, particularly with Kentucky, is Kentucky's guards are better than Carolina's guards. And they're not just better, they're better by a lot. And I don't know if in this tournament in particular, when there's not a great front line, last year you had Jahlil Okafor. You got Karl Anthony Towns. You got Frank Kaminsky. You got great front court players for the collegiate game. You don't have that this year. So in a year where there's not a ton of front court talent, does backcourt play rule at all? And if that's the case, UNC could be in some trouble. In my opinion, I think there's going to be a theme with this tournament. And the theme is the ACC is overrated.
Yeah. I agree, yeah. And I just wanted to ask you, have you seen Marcus Page? Because I haven't seen him, all year. I don't know if he, didn't tie his shoes, if he's playing with one shoe, if he forgot how to dribble. I'm just confused.
Mark my words, Marcus Page will return like Batman to Gotham for that Kentucky game.
Oh, yeah. Sorry, you called me mid-drink. Yeah, I agree. Yeah, I think everyone is very hot, and I think that's a problem with Miami, too, that the winner of the Arizona-Wichita game could prove your theory correct that the ACC kind of comes in here and lays an egg. Yeah, I was going to ask you this actually before, and then I think we're kind of good with this region, too, and we'll come back. Like I said, Xavier, isn't this the same? Is this very similar to the team that made a run? I don't know if it was last year or the year before.
They are. They're similar in terms of the fact that they have depth and they have balance, and they defend for 40 minutes, and it's a similar makeup, yes. Yes, it is.
Okay, so not a lot of the same players, but similar in style, I guess you could say.
Right, yes.
Gotcha. That's something to keep an eye on. Now, to the Midwest. Let's see. Oh, this is what I want to say. I'm pretty sure there's some stat where Calipari at Kentucky hasn't ever, yeah, this is great English, Joe, hasn't ever not made it to the Final Four. To the Elite Eight, sorry. The Elite Eight.
He has only made the Elite Eight, yes. At Kentucky, he has only made the Elite Eight.
Like every year?
Yep.
Yeah, like every time they're in the, yeah. Okay, just want to put that out there.
Yep.
But if there's one place where history means nothing, it would be the NCAA tournament. All right, I lost my sheet of paper. Here we go. The Midwest region. So Virginia got a 1 seed, and they're always that team that really likes to mess up your bracket. But this team apparently is better offensively, so that's and they play good defense, as we know. So that could be a good thing for people. Anything quick on Virginia? Because I know Michigan State gets a lot of hype. Anything quick on Virginia that stands out?
I mean, you got to think Tony Bennett does it eventually, right? You know, at some point this team is breaking through. With Brogdon and Parentis and Gill, you know, at some point they're breaking through. I agree. I question whether they have enough scoring. And I know every year the talk is, the last 2 years, the talk around this team has been, well, their offense is better now. Well, their offense might be better. Their strategy is the same. And what you do is you leave yourself vulnerable when you continue to take clocks down to 8 and 10 seconds, down past 10 seconds, and you continue to work the ball and work for the best shot. That's great offense. But it also leaves you vulnerable because you don't pull away from teams. And there are a lot of teams in this region where you let them hang around, and they can beat you. And it's going to start as early as the second game. Whether they play Texas Tech, which I think would be a little easier for them, but if they play Butler, a team that throws up 81 points per game, they play a team that can shoot the ball from 3 and they have individual scoring between Kellen Dunham and Keelan Martin. Not to mention, I forgot about Roosevelt Jones. So you got a big 3 there, along with the fact that they knock down shots and they push the tempo. That's a tough matchup. Purdue can play Virginia's style. And they might even be able to play it better between the 2 7-footers of Isaac Haas and A.J. Hammonds. You look at Iowa State, the way they push the ball. What if Iona wound up making a run? Iona would be a horrible matchup for Virginia because all they do is run. You know, you go down to the bottom of the region, Gonzaga's got talent. Utah's got talent. Dayton's got talent, and, of course, Michigan State. So while you want to believe that this is the year Virginia makes the run, logic might dictate otherwise.
This is a classic case for me. Why couldn't, Maryland be over here as the 4 seed instead of, putting them next to Cal? Come on, can we give us a chance to have some fun with our brackets, please? Or Baylor, can we not have them next to Duke just because Duke is Duke? Can we put them over here and kind of let then it would be a little easier. Let's move. I think State and Syracuse. I think we've made it very clear Syracuse is the worst team in that matchup, and a lot of people are going to pick them because they're Syracuse, and that's fine, but you're wrong. And Dayton's still very good. So I don't even think that's one we have to get, too far into. Bingo. Seton Hall Gonzaga gets a lot of love, and I think Gonzaga's going to win that game. We've seen this time and time again with teams not named when they run through the conference tournament, they then struggle to continue putting together a streak like that in this tournament, and mainly because it's very different. You're not playing teams you've already played. It's a whole – there's many reasons why that happens. For some reason, UConn, that doesn't faze them. But why – besides – I know Seton Hall has a great point guard, and once again, it takes one player to play out of his mind to advance.
Yep.
But should I not like Gonzaga as much as I do?
I like Gonzaga a lot. I had Gonzaga as a preseason Final Four team, which isn't going to happen because
because Michigan State's good.
You know, one, you're an 11 seed. You know, that's just gonna not. It's just not going to happen. But when they lost Karnowski, they were in trouble. I think they've got enough to make a Sweet 16 run. So
tell me about Utah. Sorry to cut you off, but so why? I really like Gonzaga that much as well. Why?
I think Gonzaga has enough to make a Sweet 16 run. I think Seton Hall has enough to make a Sweet 16 run. I think that is probably the most interesting first round matchup of all the games. But if you're looking for a sleeper matchup, and this will sort of lead me into Utah to answer your question.
Good.
Utah Fresno State. Okay. This is probably not the 3-4 team that everybody's looking at because of what Utah did down the stretch. You know, if Utah didn't get blown out by Oregon, if they kept that a close game, we'd be talking about how hot Utah was down the stretch. And the fact that they shoot the ball very well, and the fact that their big man, Jakob Poeltl, is a tremendous player. But instead we're talking about the fact they got blown out by Oregon. Fresno State has played some Pac-12 teams this year. They lost to Oregon by 5. Arizona pulled away from them late. They've got 2 out of 3 wins against San Diego State. They've played some teams. The Bulldogs, they defend, and they don't turn the ball over. That's a big one. They don't turn the ball over. And Utah's defense is very long and very athletic and very smart. So they can get turnovers. They don't force a lot, but they almost force you into mistakes. Look at a team that doesn't turn the ball over. I'm thinking that team isn't going to make a lot of mistakes, whether it be a bad shot, whether it be a poor decision with a first pass. They're not going to make a lot of mistakes. And Utah, while not forcing turnovers, does force you into mistakes. If Fresno State can get the shots they want, that game could be a little more interesting than people think. That would be my first round matchup. So in the second round, when you're talking about Utah, in the second round we're talking about Utah, if they play a tough first round game, you know, they're still inexperienced when it comes to the tournament. Yes, they were a Sweet 16 team last year, but they didn't have expectations last year. They have expectations this year as a 3 seed to make the Sweet 16 and give Michigan State a game. That is their expectation. Sometimes programs that are just recently turning around fall a little flat on that. And that's where a team like Gonzaga or Seton Hall with a lot of people could be right there waiting and be in the right place at the right time.
I was going to read this stat because, as we've learned, stats mean nothing in this tournament. From 2007 to 2012, 3 seeds were 23-1. And the one loss might have been Duke. 2012? I can't remember. All right. But in the past 3 tournaments, 3 seeds are 8-4. Pretty crazy. So,
wow.
Yeah, mainly because of some of the it's hard to explain that one. I think it definitely has something to do with teams that are a 3 seed, very probably easily could have been a 4 or 5, and vice versa. So they probably are overlooking opponents maybe a little bit because supposed to win. And mainly because I think 3, 4, and 5, that gap has closed. So we don't kind of get surprised over a 5-12. So there really isn't much of a 5 seed, 3 seed. I think that is, but it's hard to explain now, and that's pretty good. So yeah, I like that. All right, we're approaching 50 minutes, so let's get picking, and I'm filling out a bracket right now. So if we've already talked about the matchup, we got to go quick. If we haven't, I will let you wish, because I don't have much here. But so let's go back up south. We'll run through the first round, and then I think we should kind of maybe skip ahead to the Elite Eight or something. I don't know if we should go all the way through, but I think giving all the first round ones are pretty good. So
how about this? How about this? Let's give our Sweet 16 teams.
Yeah. Okay.
Okay.
So
give
the
teams you've got in the Sweet 16, and then go.
All right, you give your South ones first, because I gotta decide if I want to pick you yet.
You got it. So in the Sweet 16, I have Kansas, which is the chalk way there. One of my 5-12s is in this region. It's Maryland and San Diego State. South Dakota State, South Dakota State winning, but Kansas, Cal. In the and Iowa.
Wow.
No Miami and no Villanova. I think the winner of that Wichita State game, the Wichita State Arizona game, I think the winner of that game is probably going to wind up in the Sweet 16. And I like the fact that it's a 9:20 start. I don't like the fact that it's in Providence, Rhode Island, for the sake of Arizona. Lost my train of thought. But I think the Pac-12 is a lot better than people think, and I think Sean Miller is a very good head coach. So I've got Arizona and Iowa, and I have Arizona playing Kansas in the Elite Eight, and Kansas going to the Final Four.
All right, so I'm going to I'm still filling it out, but it's okay. I went Kansas and some reverse voodoo stuff going on, because then I can be wrong and that'd be fine. I also have Cal, and I also agree with your upset at Maryland. See, Maryland is that team that should be so good. It really should be.
Maryland should roll up into the Sweet 16. You're right.
And I don't, for some, I just have this thing. I'm going to. I've been on Wichita. I'm taking Arizona, but I'm going to take
Miami to the Sweet 16?
No, taking Wichita in the Sweet 16. Now, here's the deal.
Oh, okay.
Because I know, I scribbled out just now, because one of the play-in winners every year has won a game.
Yep.
And so it's always an 11 seed. And actually, every year it's been the 11 seed on Wednesday night, not Tuesday night. So that's also going against Wichita. But I don't really like Michigan over Notre Dame at all. I'm taking Wichita. I think Miami wins the first round, but so I have in the Sweet 16, and I have Villanova. As much as Iowa, I know they're good, and I picked them, but I like Villanova. All right, Kansas, Cal, Wichita, Villanova. All right, you finished the bracket, right? I'll take Kansas, and I'll predict Kansas and Villanova, and I will take Kansas. All right, let's go to the West.
We'll go to the West, and I'll start talking as you fill out.
Yes, please. As you can tell, I'm busy.
Oregon-St. Joe's is a very interesting second-round matchup. Like we said, St. Joe's has athleticism. They can go small. I don't see it personally. I think that Oregon will be able to advance. Oregon is 18-0 at home this year. Now, you don't play home games in the NCAA tournament. We all know this. But when you don't have to travel, it becomes a lot easier. Oregon is playing in Spokane, Washington the first weekend, and then they're going to Anaheim, California. Okay? This is tailor-made for Oregon to get big crowds. And if Oregon gets big crowds, it could fit the home atmosphere. And that's pretty much what you're looking for if you're Oregon. So I have Oregon in the Sweet 16. And who they play, I deemed this the mini bracket of confusion between Baylor, Yale, Duke, and UNC Wilmington. First of all, Duke is terrible.
Yes.
Duke is not a good basketball team. And somehow they get the 113 seed that I didn't want them to have, because literally any other 13 seed I would have taken them to beat Duke. But they get one that I'm unsure of. I pulled the trigger anyway and went with UNC Wilmington. They tell the rule that one of the rules you have to have is you have to have a double-digit seed in the Sweet 16. To me, I had two choices. I could either go with Yale, who preseason I said would make a tournament run, much like Cornell did a few years ago, because I thought Yale had the talent and the inside-out game offensively to give a team trouble. Or I could go with Gonzaga, and I chose Yale. So Yale is my sleeper pick, and they are in the Sweet 16. On the other side, I am, like I said, I'm still torn between Texas and Texas A&M. The winner for me goes to the Elite Eight. I just don't think it's Shaka's year. I don't think this is the one. He hasn't had his recruiting classes yet. He doesn't really have his team. I like the idea of A&M having senior leaders. Kennedy's a very good head coach. But you want to root for Texas. You want to root for Shaka, because that team plays with passion. They play with energy. Having said that, I'm going to take Texas A&M. So I'm going to take Texas A&M over Texas, and I'll put Texas A&M in the Elite Eight, beating Oklahoma. Oregon gets by Yale easy, and Oregon beats Texas A&M to go to the Final Four.
They're taking all my picks. I'm going first the rest of the way. No, you have to go first, because I'm filling this out as we go. Oregon, I said that very funny. Oregon, excuse me. I do have Duke losing in the first round. So, and here's why. And I want credit for this when it happens. So, UNC Wilmington, right? Apparently, from what I've heard, they play small ball. Now, will that play into Duke's hands? It's very interesting, because Duke is without Emil Jefferson, all right? So they're going to be playing small, and we all know Grayson Allen, the whole thing, but Duke is really bad. So UNC Wilmington plays small, defends the three well, which is a big deal against Duke because, like I said, they don't have many guys down low. They shoot the ball well, and they struggle to defend inside, but that's not an issue because it's really just one Plumlee. So I'm taking the upset, which means Baylor.
Grade A analysis by you, Joe. Grade A analysis.
I can't even take credit for that. No. I made a list off ESPN. I can't take credit for that. That's off the bracket challenge, off of ESPN. I just wrote it down, and I happen to have it next to me. But I think like I said, what I've read, I like the upset. That's what I'm going with. Which means Oregon, Baylor, A&M over Northern Iowa. Texas being hurt really scares me.
Yep, I agree with you.
But and Iowa is like Wichita and Northern Iowa have always had their thing where they're like they shouldn't be confused anymore. They're decent teams. They're very good. I have VCU and Oklahoma. So now Oklahoma and A&M join Oregon and Baylor in the Sweet 16. Oregon beats A&M to get to the Final Four. Everyone likes Oklahoma, Texas A&M. I'm going with Oregon.
I like it.
Partially because they're at home. But you're taking my picks. All right. So far, we're very similar. Let's go in the East. You can run through yours quickly. We're pretty good on time. We're only at about an hour. This is a short one for us. Go ahead.
My East is unbelievably boring. I have one upset in the whole region, and it is Pittsburgh over Wisconsin. I think that there are a lot of games that are going to be very close in this region. Indiana-Chattanooga is going to be a good game. Kentucky is going to sleep a little bit on Stony Brook, and that might be a really good first 25 minutes. USC-Providence, good game. USC-UNC could be a very good game. IU-Kentucky, very good game. Virginia against whoever they play in the second round, I'm telling you, is going to be a better game than you think. I don't care that Notre Dame doesn't have a lot of talent. I don't care that Michigan doesn't have a lot of talent. If for some reason they played Tulsa. You're right, that's a blowout. But
yeah.
both Michigan is very well coached. Notre Dame is incredibly well coached. Mike Brey is one of the best coaches in the country. I think those are going to be two very good games no matter who West Virginia plays. Pittsburgh and Xavier in the second round, or even Wisconsin and Xavier, could be a better game than you think because both teams are incredibly physical. You go to the Sweet 16. If UNC draws IU or Kentucky, they're going to be a good game. West Virginia Xavier would be a good game. And then whoever comes out of there, the Elite Eights are typically good games. So I think this is going to be a region where you have games that are very, very close, games that are intriguing, but I don't know if a lot of upsets hold. I have UNC, Kentucky, West Virginia, and Xavier.
Yep.
Then Xavier versus UNC, and I have North Carolina in the Final Four. The reason why I went with North Carolina over Kentucky, for those that might up on that game, is because I personally think that this Calipari team just doesn't have the talent to match UNC. And I know how good of a job Coach Cal has done in the last few years, and he has turned me from a Calipari hater into a Calipari lover because of the way that he gets his teams to play the right basketball at the right time. I just think UNC's too talented.
I am, all right, so as you're talking about, hey, whoever's hung up on that UNC-Kentucky game, I had Kentucky, crossed it off. I had UNC, crossed it off. As and then I went with because you went with North Carolina, and I don't want the same crap.
Love it. Great pick. You should do that more often because I'm bad at these.
Right. No, and I know you're right. And I had our baseball picks up here. Did I get rid of them? Yeah, our baseball picks were hilarious. And I actually was more right, which, again, proves you don't have to know crap to be good at predicting.
Exactly.
Exactly. All right. I have North Carolina. Oh, wow. Over Kentucky. Just kidding. North Carolina and Kentucky, West Virginia and Xavier. Kentucky and Xavier and Kentucky in the Final Four. Notre Dame, West Virginia is a tough one. All right. Let's move to the Midwest. It's all you, pal.
All right. On to the Midwest. Here is my upset of the tournament. I know I snuck Iowa in there. I personally like Iowa's matchup against Nova because I like that both teams play similar styles.
I own it.
I know. I'm bouncing a little back. My upset of the tournament is Villanova. Yeah, I snuck in Iowa over Villanova in the South region, and that one is more. I like the particular matchup because Iowa plays Nova style of ball, and I think that Nova's a little overrated, whereas I think Iowa might actually be a little underseeded just because they struggled late in the season. In this region, I went for my real upset. I went for the one that I think I might be going out on a limb on, and that is I have Butler beating Virginia in the second round, which sounds asinine.
No, I don't think so at all.
Tony Bennett has not gotten this team to play where they needed to play come tournament time, and Butler seems to be right where they want to be. They didn't have a particularly stellar last 12 games. They were 8-4 during that stretch, but I think this might be the team because they knock down threes. They're get limiting turnovers, which is important when you're playing West Virginia's defense. And they run and they score. And I think that UVA, when you look at a team that scores 80 points and they go up against UVA, a lot of people say, well, that's where Virginia's defense beats you because they take you out of your game and you can't score the 80 points. And they're absolutely right. But the thing is, they don't need to score 80. They got to score 65 because Virginia plays slow. And they play slow on offense, and they allow teams that are weaker defensively to look a little better. And that's why I like Butler, because I think Butler will run enough and score enough to at least give Virginia a very, very, very close game. But I like Butler to beat them. I've got Purdue meeting Butler in the Sweet 16. I love the way Purdue looked down the stretch. I think that, 2 7-footers, A.J. Hammond, Isaac Haas. Matt Prater's been talking about, Painter's been talking about Isaac Haas as a guy that could win National Player of the Year next year. I don't know about that, but he could definitely be Big Ten Player of the Year. He's got terrific touch around the basket. It's just too hard to play 2 7-footers in the collegiate game. It's just too tough. So you got to bring one of them off the bench, and you're not going to bring the senior. That's why Haas comes off the bench. But I think that's a very skilled basketball team. When you go down to the bottom, Michigan State is just they're a really good basketball team. I don't think that they get bothered by Middle Tennessee or by the winner of Dayton-Syracuse, even though I like Dayton. I think the 3-6-11 Utah, Seton Hall, and Gonzaga is an absolute crapshoot. I went with Utah. I'm not very confident with it. If you're looking for an upset call, I really like the Zags to the Sweet 16. And even if you like Seton Hall a lot, I really like Seton Hall to the Sweet 16 too, because they have, Seth Greenberg said it on SportsCenter. They don't have city kids. They have a city team. They have a team that is going to go. They have a team that's going to play like they're in Rucker Park, and they're going to bang bodies, and they're going to play fast and loose and aggressive. And I like those teams that play with a chip on their shoulder and nothing to lose. In the Sweet 16, though, I stuck with Utah. So Utah, Michigan State. I got Michigan State. I got Purdue and Butler with my upset. I've got Purdue, and in a Big Ten final rematch, I stick with Sparty, and Sparty goes to the Final Four.
Agreed. Yeah, the only upset I had was Gonzaga, and you made me question Gonzaga, the opening round upset now. Either way, I had Utah to the Sweet 16. I had Butler over Virginia as well. See, we think so much alike. I really like, and how crazy would it be if it was Butler-Gonzaga, which probably won't happen because Michigan is
my
very
goodness,
good.
That'd be awesome.
Right, and too bad Gonzaga's not at full strength. That'd be a really good game. But I have Butler, I have Iowa State, mainly because the 2 7-footers scare me, sure, but if Iowa State is a up-tempo, fast, high-scoring team like they say they are, then the 7-footers become neutralized as you're running by them 17 times a game. Butler, Iowa State, Utah, and Michigan State. Michigan State over Butler to advance to the Final Four. And our Final Fours are very similar except for North Carolina and Kentucky. You have the Tar Heels. I have the Wildcats. I have Michigan State over Kansas, mainly because I'm scared that Kansas is going to lose to UConn, and I don't want them as my champion.
Okay.
Who do you got?
I have Kansas over Oregon in what I think would be a terrific basketball game. UNC Michigan State. I called UNC preseason to win the national championship. Now, for some backstory, last year I picked Duke, Wisconsin preseason and Duke to win it all. When it came time for the tournament, I flipped on Wisconsin because Kentucky was unbeaten. Why is this relevant? Because my friend, and you know him, JP Lalamea, well, I'm talking to him on the phone before the brackets, before we have to submit our brackets, and he goes, you know what? I'm going to beat you as a national champion in the big pool that we're in. I'm going to take Duke over Wisconsin because you don't have the stones to, and I'm going to beat you. Sure enough, he won the whole thing, and I came in third.
Wow.
That is the only reason, by the way, why I want to pick North Carolina over Michigan State. Everything tells me that Michigan State's going to win that matchup, but that is the only reason why I am going a little bit back and forth on that. I'm going to take Michigan State, though. I'm going to do it again. I'm going to second-guess myself again. I'm going to take Michigan State against Kansas. I'm going to take Kansas in the final 71-64.
There you go, even a score. All right, we're pushing over an hour. So I did like your idea of superlatives. I didn't have a chance to get to this one, but who is your most outstanding player of the tournament? Who do you got?
Devontae Graham, when he scores, Kansas wins. I think he will have a big a big tournament in general, but particularly when they get to the big stage, I think Devontae Graham's going to show up large for Kansas.
I could see Marcus Page doing some stuff, and that would mean a North Carolina deep run, too.
Absolutely, no question.
First top seed to lose, I guess we'll go with first 1 or 2 seed, right? I think that's a top seed. So let's go. What?
Oh, I was just getting ready. By poll, I have Virginia.
Right. Okay, I was going to say besides Virginia, and besides UConn over Kansas.
Oh, yeah, right, of course. I will take. You know what? I'll do this. I'll take one that I didn't pick. Yeah. I said it when we were going through. Don't sleep on that North Carolina game in the second round, whether it's USC or Providence. I would watch out for that second round game. If we're going through like the first real upset, Duke's the first game of the tournament. They're top 4 seed. Do they count?
Sure.
All right, there we go.
There you go. I even had the balls to pick them. And I picked Duke losing. Yeah, I agree. I think Virginia's on an upset alert. I think North Carolina's going to win that second round game, but
I do too. But
yeah. All right, let's do your Cinderella. Now, we've listed a couple. Wichita, I think, is a likely candidate. Butler, as we both picked, is up there. Is there one that we haven't mentioned that could be a no pun intended, shocker to the Sweet 16 or Elite 8?
I think that if we're looking for a double-digit seed,
sure.
I think Wichita State's probably Wichita State or Gonzaga to be seen like the teams. But if we're looking for Cinderella and we're looking for someone, a team that maybe wins a first-round game that you just don't see coming, and you don't see them, have the chance, but they wind up playing a team really close. Keep an eye on Fresno State and Utah. I mentioned that game earlier. Keep an eye on that one because Fresno State to me seems like they have the makeup to give Utah a game.
Agreed. Yeah, and that would be scary for people that have Utah, or that might be another reason to pick Gonzaga or Seton Hall into the Sweet 16 because it would cover that Utah game. That's what I always try to do that in my brackets, and it always backfires. But go with what you're confident in. I think that's the motto. Any other superlative that you want to? I think I missed.
I will take for coach of the tournament. I will take. Ooh, that's tough. Let's see. Coach of the tournament. I think Sean Miller for Arizona. If they wind up making the run that I think they're going to make to the Elite Eight, this Arizona team has some talent. This is not one of his better teams, and if they got to another Elite Eight, I think Sean Miller would have done a terrific job. In terms of the coach that is going to do the least with the most, I mentioned his name earlier, Lon Kruger, big flashing light. Oklahoma should be a Final Four team in that bottom region. Oklahoma should be a Final Four team in a walk. They should sleepwalk through that thing. And they're probably not going to make it to the Elite Eight, in my opinion. So, big flashing lights for the coach that underachieves, and that's Lon Kruger.
Could the Sooners lose to VCU or Oregon State? Actually, both those teams are pretty good. I think that's a questionable second-round match.
I personally don't think that either one of those teams has enough talent, but I can tell you both those teams have enough defense. Right.
And yeah, Oklahoma's super talented too. That's the problem with this. So you want to pick against them, and then you're like, but this Oklahoma team is really, really good, and it's one game. It's not if anything can happen, but this Oklahoma team should make a run, like you said.
Yep.
Yeah. So I just want to leave you with this. When UConn beats Kansas, I'm going to give you a nice call. It'll be the first one I call of many people. I'm going to try to call. Anybody on ESPN that's outed them, I might tweet at some people. I think I'm going to, maybe take some video of my reaction when that happens. I'm going to rip up my bracket.
You'd rip up your bracket in celebration, though.
Right. Well, yeah, because I would have been wrong, and I'm so happy I'm wrong.
Exactly.
And I will have to listen to all my friends who took, I'm going to take UConn to win it all again. And when they actually do it, I'm going to lose every pool I'm in because there's that idiot that's so much smarter than me that did it, and I didn't do it. So it'll be a mixed bag of emotions for me. There should be some good games on now. I don't know if that second game is starting yet, but happy March. This was fun. Can't wait to talk to you soon. We'll have to do dear God, baseball season's almost here, huh?
That's right.
Wow. Yeah, baseball season doesn't start until, October for me, and then it ends in November for me. We'll have to talk in October. No, we'll talk before. I have to get through some women's basketball coverage. I'm going to rub it in everybody's face. You can follow me at Joseph Zocco on most social media accounts. I will be at Gamble Pavilion this weekend, one of the best venues in college basketball, as the UConn women going for a fourth straight national title. Crazy stuff. Just when you thought they did it all, they find a way to do something that no one else has done. Starting their quest for a fourth straight national title at Gamble Pavilion as the top overall seed and undefeated team. And then they will be in Bridgeport the following weekend, on Easter weekend, for you celebratory people out there. They will be in Bridgeport for the Sweet 16 and Elite 8. I will be there for that as well. Basically a nice walk through Connecticut on their way to the Final Four. It's pretty nice how the women's tournament does that, don't you think?
The favors the home teams, for sure.
Oh, yeah. And the worst part of that, real quick, is thank God they don't do it in this one, is some of the lower-seeded teams have home games in the first round, and that would drive me nuts.
I agree.
That is not 100%. Okay. That is not okay. All right, so we've blabbed long enough. Jordan Katz at Jordan Katz 11. Have we been doing this long enough?
Yes, sir. Yes, sir.
At Joseph Zocco, at Zoc Modern Life. Follow us. My picks will be up. I'm going to put this bracket up. I feel pretty confident. You talked me into some stuff. I like it. I like it a lot. There's a couple upsets. You don't want to get too crazy. And then when Wichita loses in the first round and Arizona wins, you'll be right and I'll be wrong. Keep an eye on the site for some more stuff. I slacked this year compared to last year, but we're doing it. Jordan, nice talking to you. Hope everything is well, and I'll talk to you again soon.
Joe, great as always. Another year where we throw all our picks out there and watch them all burn. But hopefully we did enough, and hopefully we get enough right.
I know what we'll have to do. We'll have to get you on, forget baseball, the NFL draft. That will be coming up soon. And that is going to be fun stuff. Some pretty big moves, too. We'll save that for another podcast in April sometime. We'll prep the draft, and we'll do
free agent what a
stuff.
tease right there.
You like that? Wow, stay tuned.
What?
Next month.
Wow.
We'll get to it. Jordan, good talking to you. See you, bud.
Take care, bud.